Um, so the last point about the elections is that the Georgian dream ran on the promise of with dignity towards Europe, with dignity only towards Europe. And
Yeah.
a month after winning the elections, even though, again, everything was based on European integration and stability, maintaining peace in the country, um, a month after the victory, they said, well, we did not really mean what we promised in the pre election campaign. We're stopping the EU integration process for 4 years. So I think that also angered people because they just blatantly lied like this, even to their own voters. So let's move to the closing, unless you have something to add to that. Let's move to the closing question that at least try to explore a couple things, what could happen next, or what should happen next, what might happen next. So this question can be posed in many different ways depending on your vantage
I
point.
don't know. What do you think? What might happen in future or in near future from your
It's hard.
perspective?
Hard to know. Hard to know what will happen because, again, President Trump will do what President Trump wants to do, and will do what he sees the right thing to be for America's interest. What we can assume will happen is that he, of course, will be briefed when it comes to this. Um, I would assume later on during his presidency. I don't think Georgia's going to be any priority for him initially on the initial stage. But when it comes to that, to it, he will get a very detailed, very, of course, professional and all-encompassing report about what Georgia is and what America's interests in Georgia are. Um, Again, Georgia was a country that was the had the highest per capita troop contributor in Afghanistan. That's that's not a small thing for a small country like Georgia. Georgia had the highest per capita casualty rate in Afghanistan. Georgians gave a lot to be a part of this democratic, free um, alliance led by the United States. So that was all only 2 years ago. And today we're seeing Georgia, a prime minister of which is traveling to Tehran twice in 2 months to first to mourn President who died in a helicopter crash, Raisi, in May, and then in July to congratulate the new president with his inauguration. That's a dramatic twist of Georgia's orientation or Georgia's friendship from the U.S. To other countries, include and
Yeah.
Iran. We're talking about Iran, and one thing, the Georgian prime minister was photographed with some of the Hamas and Hezbollah leaders that a couple weeks after that inauguration are no longer alive. Were, I mean, to be clear, were killed in some cases by confirmed Israeli strikes, but in some cases by not confirmed Israeli strikes. Um, so Georgia is moving in this strange direction, and President Trump is going to get that briefing that Georgia is giving. There's one more thing, Georgi, and then jump in. Uh, uh, Strategic Georgia signed a strategic partnership deal with agreement with China last year. We're not talking about 10 years ago, and um, it's not grandfathered in somehow in the policy considerations towards Georgia. It was only just less than 12 months ago. Um, uh, so it's last year, 2023. I'm sorry, 23 was it? Um, Strategic partnership with China, America's largest adversary. long-term adversary, and Donald Trump will take a note of that, of course. So that's another logical sort of deduction that we can do about what could happen. During his first term in office, President Trump's administration wanted to help Georgia build this port, deep sea port on the Black Sea shore called Anaglia. The project never, and Secretary of State at that time, Mike Pompeo, even encouraged then Prime Minister of Georgia to build the port. The port was never built. Of course, American investors who were interested in it did not eventually. It did not move forward. There were some technical issues which we're not going to go into it. But the bottom line is that instead of having American investors build the port, now the Georgian government has given it to the Chinese to build this port as a part of the One Belt One Road, or Belt and Road initiative. So I don't think President Trump's going to like that either. So we'll see. I think the trajectory of this relationship is moving in a way that Georgian people want it to go, that the Georgian government has deviated, dramatically deviated from the way that the Georgian people want. And Georgian people are, I think, one of the most pro-American um, societies in the region. And one side note to that is that before the presidential elections in the United States, Georgia was one of the countries in the region that, maybe even in the whole Europe, which was one of the biggest supporters of Donald Trump coming to office. So it's very pro-American, very hopeful towards President Trump. So we'll see.